there, welcome to Let's Talk Tottenham, and we've not lost a game. We've kept a clean sheet. We haven't had another shot on target, but we'll come to that. But we're getting closer. We have got Mark here, but he seems to have dropped off, so hopefully he'll be back. Hopefully Jamie's going to be back as well. I was hoping to have Everton Rose on as well to talk from the Everton point of view, but she's not feeling very well. So if you're watching, hopefully you get well soon. Mark's back. Let me just add him.
The internet keeps crashing.
Oh, okay. Well, you've got the link, so if you need to keep jumping back on, then So I'm joined by two great guests today. Mark, obviously. We'll come to you first, Mark. So, Emotion Podcast, that's your podcast. Where can people find it? It's all in the description anyway. Where can people find it?
Just not waste too much time on it, mate. If they want to follow us at Emotion Pod, I can't be doing with all the promotion stuff. If you can be bothered, go and follow us. You'll find all our information there. That'll do.
Cool. Well, it's in the description anyway. Mark's Twitter handle, and the Emotion Podcast link as well. And welcome back, Mr. K. Mr. K, who's actually started the show before me with this comment in here. We'll talk about Conte, and I'm sure we'll talk about Levy. But how are you doing, Mr. K? Pleasure to have you back. And Talk to K on Will Stewart's THFC Rants. That's your channel. How are you doing? And where can people find that?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be back. I've had a little hiatus, I think around about 2-3 months. It's good to come back. Will Stewart owns the channel. I own the show. And that's Talk to K. That's on Tuesday nights, 11 o'clock GMT. That will, it basically starts at 11 o'clock because I want to get some of the UK crowd, the European crowd, and I want to get some of the American crowd and the overseas crowd from overseas. So there's quite a nice little spread of people that are in it. And we generally tend to kind of like take it a little bit easy because there's so many shows that go on about the woes of Tottenham that you need a little bit of TLC at the end of the day to go to sleep. So, but I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, no problem. Pleasure to have you both on. A couple of comments. Adam, who not only this channel, but is a big supporter of all Spurs streams. Big up, Adam. How you doing? Maybe in the next game we'll get one shot on target. It's getting closer. So I'm confident that at some point before the end of the season we'll have a shot on target.
We hit the post.
Mr. K is back. He certainly is. Scott M. Hi, Chris. Hi, Mark. Not sure who the other guy is. You don't know who Mr. K is. But yes, hello to him as well. And then Adam has corrected him. Mr. K is one of the biggest legends ever. Here. Me and Mark are just average, apparently.
No.
No, that's true. I agree with that.
No.
Right, the game 0-0, fairly boring game, but it's two teams where the defensive issues were evident for both teams. So 0-0. Will both teams be pleased to a certain extent? Mr. K is nodding his head, shaking his head. Both. I'm assuming you think Everton might be pleased, but Spurs fans.
No, I thought it was an exciting game. It wasn't boring at all. There was so much going on, all of it terrible. But but at the end of the day, there was lots of activity. There's lots of talking points, controversies around VAR. I think the referee got absolutely all the decisions right. Terrible, absolutely atrocious tackle at the end by Holgate, and he's done it before. That is not the first time he's done naughty things like that.
I got corrected on Eugene's stream by Vez because I thought he might have slipped, and then Vez was like, no, he's dirty player, and then I've watched him
very dirty.
So
honestly, you could destroy someone's career, and you're affecting not just one player but the family around him. His teammates, the club, and what for? To win or lose the game? You're on the 91st minute. You're not going to do anything. You're literally like you got the ball anyway. So that was deliberate and vicious, right? And the thing is, he puts on such a sweet, innocent face. Oh, what did I do? I didn't do anything. He's done it to our players before, and he's almost literally taken them out for like 2 seasons. Oh my God, I really genuinely, I don't like players like that. I can see like a Roy Keane when he broke next man's leg, right? Yeah, that was a terrible thing. But generally, he's quite a strong player. But Holgate, no, he looks for opportunities like that. He thinks he can get away with it. But with VAR, no, you can't get away with that anymore.
No. Well, it's ridiculous. He was only on the pitch for, I don't know, 10 minutes, possibly even less. But I mean, Mark, what did you think of the game? Were you pleased with the defensive aspect, cheesed off with the attacking aspect, or are you? Conte's only had a week, so let's give him some time. What were your initial thoughts after the game, and have they changed now?
My initial thoughts after the game was, because I went to the game. Bloody hell, I've got a long journey back.
Did you?
0-0. Yes, I've got a long journey back for a 0-0 draw. But I didn't think it was a terrible display. I don't think Everton, I think a draw was a fair result. I think the no shots on target thing is true, but there were chances there that we should have got on target. There was the Emerson header he should have done better with. There was the Kane crossing to Reguilon, he should have done better. They didn't show it. I will just watch Match of the Day too, just to see the highlights. Son was clear through and completely missed the target. He should have done better with that.
That was offside. I think they called that back after we had the shot.
Did they? Because I looked for the line and I didn't see him actually put his flag up, so I didn't know what happened with that, to be honest.
I'm sure in the game, because I watched the game on internet, but I'm sure they mentioned it
was off. Fair enough. And there was the Lo Celso hitting the post as well. So I don't think it was as obviously we want to see shots on goal, but I only remember they got 2 on target, didn't they? So I remember the one from Godfrey, which was just a P roller into Lloris, and on the stat that will show as a shot on target. So we got it. Look, what do we want as fans? I'm not worried about scoring goals because I know that will come. What I'm worried about is how poor our defence is. So I think he needs to come in and sort that defence, and keeping a clean sheet, I think, is a massive step for us. So whilst it wasn't great to watch, and probably if it was Nuno in charge, I would be tearing my hair out. With it being Conte's first game, I wasn't overly disappointed, to say the truth. And I've seen a lot of negativity since I've went on Twitter when I got home and all that. And I just think it's really just pretty stupid, to be honest with you.
You get that. We could win 5-0 and there'll be an issue that people have. But good news is we've gone up in people's estimations, Mark. Me and you are also legends as well.
You are, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, Mr. K, Mark says about no shots on target. I mean, they don't count a shot against the post. I guess technically it isn't. But Reguilon had a shot that was blocked. That was going on target. That doesn't count. And I can't really remember, other than the penalty decision, which we'll get to, Lloris doing too much. So I think it was a game of very, very few chances with two teams with probably a lack.
I don't think Everton had the way they were set up, especially with the players they didn't have, like Calvert Lewin wasn't there. So they didn't really have the type of attacking threat that they needed to finish, like to really go at us. But at the same time, we had like too much of a defensive midfield. So we didn't have no creativity there to open up Everton. So basically, I think both managers were going for a slightly cautious setup. And it reflected that at the end. Yeah. I mean, I think Conte is quite astute at the fact that he understands, he's beginning to understand the limitations of our squad, our players. Strangely enough, he mentioned that the only good thing about our players was that they had heart and passion. I mean, that's something that we as fans have been screaming out that we want from our players for a very, very long time. But, good on him. Maybe he can see things we can't. I mean, he is a professional. He's there inside. He's got other professionals giving him information. Everywhere he's gone, he's taken teams which are like 10th or even further down the table, and he's taken them 1 season or 2 seasons straight away into success. So the formula that he uses, the system that he uses, and what goes on behind the scenes, which is fundamentally important, it works for him. Obviously, he's left other clubs because the demand that he has on the club to back him is quite intensive and quite high, and probably clubs can't keep sustaining that. We might end up in a situation where something similar might happen, or Levy might enjoy that relationship with Conte and keep giving him more, because we do need trophies. We've got a wonderful stadium, incredible training facilities. We're renowned around the world. We're one of the most affluent clubs on the planet. We have Sonny, we have Kane, we have Hugo Lloris. These are 3 incredibly quality players that would fit into any top side. Maybe Hugo Lloris is now getting a little bit old. Kane is not probably showing as much as his what he can do. But without doubt, come on, you can't doubt Kane. The man's got too much quality, to be dismissed. And I think to a certain degree, Mark is right. When you come home and you start to see the things that are being floated around on Twitter, it disheartens you. It really disheartens you. You're thinking, well, if you're going to watch this and come out with this, why are you even watching? If you're not enjoying it, And I think to a certain degree, if you're enjoying it, you're going to see things which do give you some happiness. So as Mark said, it wasn't a terrible game. It just wasn't the type of game where you expect goals to be popping in, scrams in front of the 9-yard box and things like that. Normally that's what you would get. Team trying to scrap a goal in. But I think both the teams were being a bit cautious. We were actually the better attacking side. Honestly, it looked like whenever we were moving forward, that we had intent. The only problem is that the players just didn't know where to pass the ball. I mean, there was a couple of times when I think Kane was moving into the correct positions and they were passing the ball out to someone else. I mean, the Celso attempt on goal, Kane was on free through the middle. He made that movement where he checked in, where he'd gone in front of the defender and was just going to slip round him. And if the ball had been played in between those two defenders, he would have been clear one-on-one with the goalie. And knowing him, he would have smacked it in the back of the net. But instead, they passed it to somebody else. And they passed it to somebody else. And they passed it to somebody else. So there's definitely something going on in the team.
Do you think that's possibly a fact that however long Nuno's been in charge and Mourinho to an extent that they're just not used to attacking teams like they used to, and it becomes not muscle memory, but it becomes like habit?
No, it's got to do with the fact that there's something terrible going on inside the dressing room. They've lost confidence in Kane. 100%. Somehow these players seem to think they can do without him. As far as they're concerned, they got Sonny. There you go, new talisman. We don't need. Kane looks sulking all the time. He asked the players to step up. They didn't. He asked the club to step up. They didn't. And then the fan base went against him. So mentally, where is the boy? He put 10 years of absolutely everything into our club. And then he has half a blip of a season, I don't know, 8 weeks or whatever, 10 weeks. And all of a sudden, it's like talk about, it's like he's no longer a legend status anymore. I think that's... Yeah. I don't know. I don't talk about it too much.
Yeah, he was getting dogs abuse in the stand. I've never heard it before. In the ground.
I'm assuming though, Mark, that's because of the whole training incident. It kind of looks like he's disrespected the club and the fans, and then because he's not playing particularly well, that obviously emphasises that. If he was smacking in 10 goals already, the abuse would have completely finished. But
yeah, there was. It did. Me and you, Chris, have both backed him, saying that we don't believe that he's not giving effort and everything else. It did. I must admit, and I've seen. I've been into the ground this season, and I've backed him and said, and I've just said what you've said, Mr. K. How would you feel if over Twitter your brother was getting absolute abuse over Twitter, the way, and some of it was disgusting, by the way, and we don't know what was said with Levy and everything else, whether he was made promises. And if you're in a job and you're a bit disheartened, look, I'm not going to make it. What I would say, and as I said, I've backed him. He did come across yesterday, watching him yesterday, and I didn't feel like it on Thursday. I was at that game. I thought he put in 100% effort. It did seem yesterday that he wasn't giving it everything, running off the ball. And I don't know what that was about, but he was. I wasn't one of the ones that was shouting abuse at him, but he was getting called all kinds of things. At the end of the
day, if the coach doesn't believe in him, the coach doesn't want to feel that he should be there, then the coach shouldn't put him on the pitch.
And that's it, Mr. K. And they're all and Conte isn't going to mess. He's the kind of coach that would just completely drop him. Whether he's got someone else to do the job, he just wouldn't play. It's as simple as that. So I do think there's something psychological rather than effort-wise going on with him, to be honest. And I've said that for a few months now.
The way I look at it, I see it in the commentary and the pundits as well on TV. Like he's stuck in with two dilemmas. If he drops deep to get the ball, then physically he's not going to be at the front. So he's getting criticism for not being in the front. But they're not passing the ball to him. And when they are, Davis was a classic example, right? Yeah, he smacked the ball at like 200 miles per hour, expecting Kane, right? Yeah, to kind of receive the ball, but Kane hadn't got into position. His position was meant to be 4 yards further ahead. He literally passed the ball to Davis. He's now going to run forward to go ahead. But before he even got a chance to, Davis smacked the ball back at him. And I'm thinking to myself, the players, I think slowly over the 90 minutes, I start to see more and more that Kane was dropping his shoulders. literally not running as much as he used to, because I think basically he knows, he feels that the team don't support him. I can't see it. And like, for example, when they celebrate, when Son scored a goal, I think in one of the other games, right? Yeah, I didn't see that Kane and Son togetherness after in terms of celebration, and that was very telling.
Yeah, our best chance yesterday was created by Kane. That's the other thing as well. I mean, it was, you know, he was the one that put the ball into Reguilon. He also was the person who put the ball into Reguilon to put the cross in for Emerson as well. He also started that move as well. So whilst he's not at his best, he is still getting involved in some of our best moves. I do agree that I just think it's purely what happened in the summer, and people are not forgive. That never happened. Everyone would go, oh, it's just a dip in form, you know, we'll get behind him. But the problem is, I don't agree with what he did in the summer. I don't want to keep going over old territory. I don't agree with what he did in the summer, but I also don't agree with all the abuse that followed. As annoyed with him as I was, it's going to affect you as a human. These footballers are human, you know. They're not robots. You know, if your family's getting abused, and he would have been taking abuse as well, that does affect you. I don't care what anyone's. You can say he's paid whatever he's paid. It doesn't matter what you're paid. And this is his life. He's been a footballer since he was 8 years of age. You know, they're indoctrinated in football. They have everything done for them. It's a different world to what we live in as well. You know, it does affect them.
I don't know. It feels like some of the fan base. I mean, look. I'm trying to understand, and maybe in my show tomorrow I might look a little bit deeper into it, because fans now are starting to split between these two groups: pro Kane, anti Kane.
Well, that's exactly what Adam says. It's sad to see the big divide between Kane and the fans.
And I think it's terrible. I think at the end of the day, it's almost like someone set us up. It's almost like someone's whispered on one side and whispered on the other side and orchestrated this to occur. Because while all this is going on, no one's actually looking at Levy. You know? How strange. We have the worst summer that we've ever had, right, yeah, in terms of management. I remember that time before when Poch, right, yeah, went for a season and a half without acquiring a single player. No rotation of the squad. You know, everyone seems to get distracted. Then all of a sudden there's a dip in form after the Champions League. And no one's looking at Levy and saying, hold on a second, why is he not shouldering the blame for this? Right? Do you feel right now that this player that we've got, Kane, is worth the 200 million that we thought he's worth in summer?
No.
Right. So if he's not worth the 200 million, right, yeah, then why the heck didn't they grab the money from City that they were offering and say, listen, up it a little bit, spread it out a little bit more, let me get a little bit more here, let me get a little bit more here, and be satisfied. And they, bye-bye, Kane. And welcome new, fresh, you know, squad. You know, Conte might have been maybe it's a Conte thing as well. Maybe Conte wants him there, maybe he doesn't. But at the end of the day, Conte can work without Kane. He's proved it in other clubs. He wants Kane.
Conte will get him through the middle. He won't get him outside. But let me just get through to a few comments. Adam has said, if Nuno was in charge, we would have lost, in my opinion. Probably because we wouldn't have had any attacking threat at all. Wayne Bonner is here, and like Adam, a big support of all Spurs channels. Bob Spurs, very horrible to you, Mr. K. Big up you beautiful people, and hi to Mr. K too. We need Jonathan Blondell. I mean, he was a little bit of a playmaker, so it wouldn't have helped. It wouldn't have been the worst thing. Craig Bowler, how you doing, Craig? I think the Levy out echo chamber on YouTube is just as toxic. Controversial thing today. You know, they didn't make an offer according to Pep, is what he says. And one thing I do want to get to, Mark, is the formation. He said, Craig, Nuno would have got slaughtered for that performance, the formation and the substitutions. I think the difference is Conte's been there a week, Nuno had been there for a little while, and there was an attacking threat. There were one-touch passes and a bit of movement. And also the 3-4-3 is a problem going forward. There's no forward midfielder putting balls through for those up front. And he ended up taking Son and Moore off anyway, not all the forwards full. I think he's hit the nail on the head there, Craig. And you, we've known each other quite a while, Mark, and you know how I've been banging the drum that we need a playmaker. Yep. And I thought it was such emphasising that. It was side to side to side. And what I think happens, the Sons of this world, the Kanes of this world, they make runs when there's a playmaker, because they know there's someone, if they make a run, and even if they're 60 metres away, he can find them. When they're not and it's side to side, they don't want to expel that energy. But I'd be absolutely amazed. There's more chance, I think, of my hair growing back than us not signing or trying to sign a playmaker in January. But I mean, is that the problem you see, Mark, or do you think the three at the back was an issue?
I don't think the three at the back is an issue. I think, I know, Chris, you've been saying about a playmaker since Eriksen left, and saying we need to replace him. And where other people were going about other positions, you've always been very adamant that was the one position we needed to replace before anyone else. So credit to you, you spotted it a long time ago. But yeah, we definitely need that type of player.
It's not necessarily needed, is it? Because Liverpool don't play with a playmaker, but they've got a different way of playing. We're seemingly trying to play with one because we're keeping the ball.
There's two different ways of being able to play. If you look at American football, for example, right, they have something called a quarterback, but only 50% of the time do they actually use the quarterback. The rest of the time, they're using something called running backs, where they get the ball and they run forward with it. Our team's a bit like that. We've got a lot of people that can grab the ball and run forward with it. But what we need is someone like an Eriksen, who's a quarterback, who can get the ball, spot the pass, and ping it across, 20, 30, or thread it through. And that can open up defenses. If you're running at defense, they can just close you off. They can push you to the side. So that's that. In a way, that can defend it. If Mora's on it, he can run around people a little bit. But if not, then you're going to get nowhere with it. And then you're going to have to take shots from 30 yards out, which is pretty much the only shots we got around here. But coming back to one little point, though, just to clarify to the viewers out there, right, that the type of malarkey, right, that gets played out when it comes to words is this. If you set your stall out to say that this player is worth 200 million, you will not receive any offers for less than that. Therefore, technically, you have not received an offer. Now, Pep is the only manager I've ever seen who on a live broadcast where he's being interviewed, actually talk about a particular transfer. When he talked about Levy, he literally spat venom out at Levy and said, what a really fantastic businessman. That's really nasty talk.
Which is why I think he didn't negotiate, which is a lot of the reason why the way they tapped up Kane was a joke. And I think that's part of the reason why we said, well, no, we're not gonna the way Kane tapped himself up on Sky, which was the start of me. I said we weren't going to come onto it, but we are now. That's what pissed me off the most. The Gary Neville interview when we had important games coming up still the next day, in fact, against Aston Villa. That was the start of it.
The final was coming up.
Yeah, exactly. He knew then what was going on, and I think that we said, no, we're not going to put up with this. We're not going to be that bullied club anymore, like we were with Berbatov and Carrick.
Yeah, that was the worst.
Man City think they're this big club, but back in the day, I know finances were slightly different. If Alex Ferguson wanted a player, that player desperately wanted to go to Man United. He did everything he could. Now it's changed, and
it's okay to talk about Man United. It's okay to talk about Sir Alex Ferguson, right? Yeah, in a way to turn around and say that they've got the power and the balls to get the things that they want. But for example, Man City, no. We're not allowed them to do exactly the same way. Both clubs are wrong because the way they bought Berbatov us, right? Yeah, and the way Levy told us, that was a disgrace to our club, man. On the final day, on the final hour of the transfer window, we lose our number one striker.
We got Fraser Campbell in. Come on, they were fair. Come on.
Spot on. But listen, Mark is absolutely right. I think we've I know we've talked about this to death, right? Yeah, but for some reason it's just not going away. I wish they would just sold him, get him out of the way, because it's almost like a wound that's constantly there. Because every time we see a poor performance, I mean, Bob Spurs said this a long time ago. He goes that Kane has opened himself up that every time he has a poor performance, the fan base is going to get on his back, and we're actually seeing that manifested.
Well, Bob
if you can push it to one side,
literally just said that. Yeah.
All right. So basically, if we can push that to one side and actually have a look at the rest of the team, are there any signs of improvement that we can see here? And literally, the way I look at it is that Conte is watching this. That particular game was the type of game that we would have lost lastminute.com, right? But for some reason, Conte did a few, if he did a few changes, he actually said, I made a few changes, right? And literally, that was an acceptance to the fact. Now, Nuno wouldn't have done so. I think Poch used to be rather reluctant to do so. And Jose was terrible at that as well, right? So I think to a certain degree, we've actually got a manager that's actually got a little bit of nous when it comes to making changes when they're necessary. He just needs the players to be trained to do what he wants them to do, be sitting on the bench, waiting and eager to get on, right? We've turned around and thought to ourselves that we don't have depth in squad, right? Yeah, fair enough, we don't. But if you look at, for example, right, yeah, that top teams can sometimes go up against like mediocre sides, but that the mediocre sides can win. So basically, if you got players, even if they're not top quality, if they believe and are willing to work hard enough and listen to their manager and believe and do what he tells them to do, and the manager himself has got tactical nous, then you can get those players to step forward in terms of the fact that you can say, well, depth of squad is not there, but you can use them to become depth of squad. So I think the system that Conte is doing right now and the way that he's approaching our team is filling us with hope, because we've seen with our own eyes, right, yeah, that this is the type of game we would have lost barely, you understand, under Nuno, right, and maybe even under Jose. But right now, we didn't lose that game. So I'm actually grateful that we got a point. I think both teams deserved a point. I would have liked our team to have won, seriously, 4-1 or something. I want us to go out firing. But to a certain degree, I'm happy that we didn't win the game. Why? Because I think Conte needs to be looking at this, and I don't want the players to think, hey, we're better than we are. I want them to be kept at a level, and then for Conte to build them up bit by bit by bit. Like he says, he doesn't like the up and downs. He doesn't like crazy games. And that's what we had in the past. We had them winning a game, 3-4, 4-1 or whatever, and the players think they're fantastic. Let's go to TikTok and touch my hat and so on. And then they go out there and then they have another game where they can't get a bloody shot on target. They lose the game in the last minute, right? Yeah. Dye looks like he's like, snow boots or something. And then they'll come out with some absolute crap in the interviews afterwards. This at least feels real. I have never had this type of feeling since Poch has left. So in a way, in Conte, I friggin' trust.
Yeah, and what the comments he made was spot on as well. He said he has to be pleased with it. What was really missing was that final pass, the final pass and the final. And it was just either too slow and didn't get to the player, or it was just too fast and too in front of. If we would have got some of that, like some of the, there was one move where it was just, like you said before, Chris, that was one touch passing. It was they were just popping it off, and I was like, wow, this is like, and it was just the final ball that just didn't come off. It will come, and I really like what he's saying in terms of we're building something. It's not, he doesn't like them up and down games. He needs consistency. There's no point, as you just said, winning 1 week 3-0 and then getting battered 4-1 the next week. He wants consistently winning, players knowing what they're doing in the position they're in, what they're doing. This is your job. That's your job. Kane will be told, as you've already said, Chris, you stay up front. Part of the reason we all know why he's dropping off, because he's our most creative player as well as our striker at the minute. So, he will get there, and this guy, man, like Mr. Cam Shaw supported Tottenham longer than me. I don't know about you. I come in the Terry Venables days. That was my first one. I've never been so excited. I've never been so excited by a management appointment. I love Pochettino. I wasn't excited when he took over because I knew him at Southampton. I thought he was okay. He was brilliant. But I've never been this excited by a management appointment. It's like, for me, not as big as Klinsmann, because I was super excited for that one. But it's not far off it. It's not far off it with a Van der Vaart, Bale coming back. This is massive for Tottenham. It's massive. And people moaning, I don't get you, because this guy is going to change things. And it's really exciting.
I mean, yeah, Bob Spurs put some comments in. We've already shown this one, but no one foresaw the decline in performances from Kane. We all celebrate when he decided to stay, but doing what he did allowed the fan base to make their own opinion and question Kane's commitment. Pretty much exactly what Mr. K said. And then he goes on, he's one of our world-class players. Kane needs to show he wants to play for Spurs more than Conte having to prove anything to Kane. I think he'll come good. If not, see ya. I think Conte said it in Euro 2020, didn't he? Kane coming deep is all good because he's good at it. But if I was coach, he wouldn't be leaving the penalty box because that's where he's devastating. Yeah. But I still think we need that playmaker to do that. And I mean, the self-entitled attitude Man City and an overrated Pep went on during the summer meant I hated City more than Arsenal for a bit. I mean, absolutely.
It's true. It's true.
Brian McFarlane's come in. Hi, Brian. How you doing? Fraser effing Campbell, Keenan Berbatov gone, Levy is a piss taker.
Yeah.
Adam, I think Conte's on the touchline, wondering how fans put up with this every week. But like you said, Mark, he won't be wondering for that long because he will make changes. And in terms of a playmaker, he can't do anything until January. But he could easily put get someone to try passes. Craig said it's more about getting a replacement for Kane. It's not easy bringing the player in on the same value that Kane's been to our club, which isn't. But you can bring in a different kind of striker, I guess. Ryan says there's no way we replace Kane. And Craig, this is exactly what was said on Eugene's channel. It will take time for the players to adapt to a new system in a 3-4-3. The front three are very narrow, relying on the space down the wings and crosses into the box. But, I mean, in the last year, Jose, Nuno, and now Conte, they've been learning 3 different systems. No shots on target again. We've already kind of mentioned this, but it will come, won't it, Mark? I mean, we had one off the post. We had Reguilon that got blocked. If it hadn't got blocked, it's probably not going in. It probably would have been saved, but that counts. And I can't remember the Everton player that you mentioned.
Ben Godfrey.
But it's not just this game, though. It's not just this game. It's been like, how many years? 4 hours of play?
Yeah.
But it's been a consistency.
Better than what was the last game? United. It was a lot better than the United game. There was stuff to be. I can see something happening there. If just a little more care, whereas United was just nonsense. But Lo Celso. What really annoyed me in the game is
corner.
How did you know, Mr. K? And I could play a better corner than that because I understand to get a corner past first man, it's got to be off the bloody air, off the floor. And
have you ever wondered why in the past? Have you ever wondered why in the past Kane used to take corners?
Yeah, and this is a team, Everton, that have conceded so many goals from corners. So surely putting it in the danger area, it's up to the strikers or the defenders that come up. But he was very unlucky with that shot off the post, and then he bloody does that. It's just typical of the guy, Lo Celso. So he has a really good game, then he has a couple of awful ones, and it was a 2-minute snapshot of his career so far. It's annoyed me so much.
I don't know. I risk of getting absolute pelters for this, right? And I went fucking mental. Sorry for swearing. I don't know if we're allowed to swear at the minute.
I was after 10 minutes.
I went mental in the stadium, but being there, it was bloody. I'm not trying to make excuses. It was a shit corner. Really, it was terrible. I mean, needed it to go into the box. But if you watch it, I don't know if you can watch it again. It was very windy. They sent blue across him. Right. You don't know if you can see in the screenshot. Ndombele was coming and he was going. Do I go to him? And when you're caught in two minds on something,
it goes nowhere.
Yeah, I think that's what he's a professional footballer. It was shit. But I think he was caught in two minds. Try and watch it again, and you'll see him go to Ndombele.
Yeah, I did notice that. But in response to that, Ndombele should have pissed off. This is a team that conceded goals from corners. Put it in the bloody box. Don't worry.
That's what I was shouting. Just get it in, and then that was the result. It was terrible.
Yeah, but he was unlucky with the shotgun.
No, that's because Mark, you still had hope at that time that we might get a goal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I'd given up by then. I'd said, no way. If we get a goal, we've stolen the game.
Yeah, I mean, there were two real talking points. We talked about the red card, the Everton penalty appeal. I think he got to the right decision. But what I'd be livid about is if I was an Everton fan, is that I thought the game has to carry on. And then when it goes out of play or whatever, then it stops. If you look at it again, Richarlison, to his credit, got up. And Loris is in no man's land. All he has to do is curl it in, and the ref pulled it back. So, in terms of the decision by VAR, it was the right decision, Mr. K. But if you were an Everton fan, you'd be pretty cheesed off that you weren't allowed to play on when goals go in and then they get pulled back like 20 minutes later for offside, whereas this one wasn't allowed. But it was the right decision. I thought in real time he must have got a hand to that. I mean, I wasn't sure.
No, because it was a penalty shout. Because the referee assumed that he saw a penalty, he blew. He in his mind, it's 100% a bona fide penalty. So he stopped it. So he was acting upon that. Unlike other circumstances where someone shoots and you go back and find out something was offside, that happens later on. With this particular one, it looked for all intents and purposes that's a full-blown penalty from the referee's perception where he was looking from, right? And even if you were looking from there, it looks like a blatant penalty because it looks like Richarlison's got the foot there, got the ball there first, and then Lloris has taken him down. right? Now, obviously, if you're looking from a side, right, you'll see the fact that Lloris has actually got his hand on the ball, and the ball's gone sideways, not forward. So you know from the momentum of the ball that Lloris has got some touch on the ball. Now, VAR at that particular time got into the referee's ear and said, hold on, mate, you better have a look at this. Otherwise, it's going to be in the newspapers tomorrow, right? And what you said earlier, so what should you do as a referee? And I think to a certain degree, this is where I think a little bit of the confusion or the naivety or the lack of maturity. You have two choices, right? Yeah. You can either drop the ball between two players, and then the one of the players turns around and says, you know what, you go on, take it, because it's really yours. Richarlison was in a dangerous position, but there was one defender of ours that was actually towards the goal mouth. So it wasn't a full-blown certainty that you just knock it over and it would go in, because we had a defender there. But Hugo was completely in no man's land at the time. So I understand the frustration that Everton feel, but I don't care. They're Everton.
Yeah. But I mean, Mark, it works in the other way around. I don't know if you remember Bergwijn's debut, Man City. The play went on for 2 minutes before it got pulled back for penalty. So it works the other way around. So I think, it's benefited us in a way. I mean, like Mr. K says, there's no guarantee he would have scored because there was someone back, but it would have been a clear chance for him. And he didn't get that chance, and then he didn't get the penalty, so there's been no clear chance. But yeah, I mean, it was brilliant by Lloris. It was obviously risky, but he did well. He obviously thought, I can get this ball. And I don't know whereabouts you were at the ground, if you were that end or the other end.
No, we was right down the other end.
But yeah, you probably did. But I thought that how close he was to Richarlison, he must have got something on the ball there.
I definitely thought that. I'm not just saying it. I shouted straight away. He won. He got the ball, because I think Mr. K already said you could see the ball move as he went down. So it's clear that he pushed it for me. I thought it was actually a lot clearer in the ground than when I watched it on the TV. I was like, did he touch the ball? I don't know whether that's just my bias, like shouted out, yeah, he definitely got it. But when I watched it on the TV, it wasn't as clear as what I thought it was. But Chris, before we started doing the YouTube stuff, how often do we bang on about VAR and all the bad decisions?
How often, wasn't it?
Yeah, every single.
We benefit the most out of it.
Yeah, but not. We didn't used to just go about Tottenham. We used to just go about all the games, and it was about 3 or 4 a week. It's really improved this season, I have to say.
But I think that's because the referees are being encouraged to go to the monitor like they were in World Cups and Euros. Which
if you think about it for 1 second, the decision. Mark's right. Mark's actually got a very valid point, because for years there used to be a frustration in fans that were paying attention, right? Yeah. That the opposition players were able to get up and get away with things that they should not be able to. I mean, I remember, for example, when we played against Chelsea, and Kane went down on the side, and Terry was kicking the crap out of his back. That should have been sending off. But in those days, I remember when, for example, Danny Rose scored a goal against Chelsea right towards the end, which enabled us to win the game, and then he got absolutely poleaxed by Cahill. That's a sending off, right? So to a certain degree, since VAR's come in, now even when VAR first came in, there wasn't enough in the referee's ear to say, hold on, mate, rewind that, have a look. But now that's started to becoming more and more consistent. It's actually coming into our favor, right? Why? Because I think there's always been a certain degree of bias against Tottenham when it comes to the officials, when it comes to the punters, and when it comes to people reviewing what's actually happening with their team. Including the fans, where they don't seem to notice, like, hold on a second, didn't Danny Rose get absolutely cut in half by Cahill? Why is nobody mentioning it? So I think the perception is we got used to having that type of adverse reaction to any type of official decisions, and we've got on with it. But now, slowly, bit by bit, the truth is starting to be shown towards the referees. Hold on, mate, you need to have a proper look. You can't get away with this anymore. I mean, some decisions for, some decisions against. I understand, but at least it's fair.
It's a lot better this season, I have to say. I've not really complained about it once this season. It's not slowing down the game, really. You do get a bit more excitement. You do know as soon as the ref goes to that monitor, though. I've only seen one decision not overturned. I'm sure it was Tottenham. Do you remember? I can't remember it was against.
It was.
Yeah, I can't remember it was against.
I can still feel the bitterness. Somewhere.
It definitely was. He went there. He said, "No, I still made the right decision. No goal." I remember it.
Was it 40 minutes in? What a cock!
Well, I mean, Mr. K says there. I mean, the battle of the bridge, if VAR in that would have been a very different game come the end.
Yeah.
But, a couple more comments. Jay from Retro NUFC. Good evening, guys. How you doing, Jay? He was on for the Newcastle game. Lovely guy. Craig Bowler as well. I've noticed for Inter this weekend, Bastoni was pushing into the opponent's box, same as Davis and Romero. Conte's style formation seems quite fluid. I can't work it out at the minute, but it's only been like a week. It's only been a week. It's going to take a little time for that to all come, I would suggest. But yeah, and that brings us on nicely. Conte, are there signs of changes already, Mr. K?
I believe.
I should have asked, what are they?
Right, okay. The first change, right, is we've actually got a manager that's willing to sit in pre-conferences and post-conferences who's able to actually give us information. One of the biggest problems we had with Tottenham was transparency. Okay, so with Jose, he would sidetrack the issue and joke about other things. With Nuno, he just wouldn't say diddly squat. No. With Mason, he would say exactly what Levy wanted him to say, right? And Poch was too diplomatic. With Conte, he's actually giving the fans, the ones that are actually watching the game, that actually love the games, forget the politics, but love the game. He's giving us information which we can now properly analyze. And that information is factually based. So that's the first thing which I get, is that the transparency, right, is starting to get there between us, the manager, and what we're seeing our players doing on the pitch. Now, he does say, I will not talk about individual players. That's fine. I think he's right. Because sometimes the media will try to inflame a situation by focusing the attention towards one player or another. Right? And technically, if you look at football, it's a team game. We play together, we win together, we lose together. That includes that we have the fans. We need to join in with that. We need to go there with the team. And if we lose, fair enough, we lose. We lose together. But sometimes in the past, when the team used to lose, but we used to take it out on them. Right? Because we didn't see the fight, the heart. Now, Conte is saying, listen, we can improve tactically. We can improve physically, but he says that basically the heart and the passion of a player cannot be taught. And therefore he's pleased. He goes, the positive thing I get is that the players showed me that they're willing to fight for one another and all that type of stuff, right? The heart part of it. Now, as fans, with your team wins or loses, you want to see that heart. Now, I reckon one of the reasons why we've not seen the heart is because the tactical stupidity that some of our team players do just distracts you from the absolute tenacity of how they're trying to approach the ball, right? I remember once, right, Lamella had the ball all by himself, right, and he just fell down. His feet. This is before he went, and and he was one of our players that showed the most amount of heart. Okay, so the stupidity of how they play sometimes overshadows the heart that they really have for the club, right? So it's I think Conte telling us that, plus us, hearing it, is probably the best thing. That is a sign of change. Yeah. This particular
Newcastle have just appointed Eddie Howe, so that'll be interesting how he does. Craig's also said it's interesting allowing your left and right centre backs to overlap to your wing backs. I must be honest, Craig, I never actually noticed that. I don't know if you did, Mark, at the game. But one of the big things that Conte has changed, which was mentioned in the commentary, which isn't going to take effect now, it would probably take a month, and I don't know how many Nuno had. He's brought 3 fitness coaches with him. So if any players are under the illusion or aren't sure if they're going to have extra sessions, I would bet my bottom dollar that you're having extra sessions for a little while.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? 2 years ago, was it 2-3 years ago? We were all moaning, not we, but basically the perception was poor old players are being overworked by Poch. Now it seems to me that there's always this little voice that seems to be nattering around that seems to stir things up, including what happened with Kane. And then we as fans, we a bit fickle. We're going to start talking about it, and half of us are going to get split. This is another situation, right?
Yeah. What do you think of the big changes that he has made? Well, the changes that he has made, the big changes that he will make, and do you think? Because I think he'll be split with the Spurs fan base. Some will love him, some will hate him, because he will chew out some of the fans' favourites. I don't want to call anyone out, but Dele Alli. if he laughs when Conte says you're shit at training, like he did with Jose, Conte is likely to run across the room and strangle him and pin him up against the wall. But yeah, what do you think, Mark? Are the changes he that are showing at the moment, and the big changes that will be evident soon?
Well, I think the big change that we've seen is he's had 2 games and he's played exactly the same team twice. So that's a massive change because there wasn't the chopping and changing for the Europa Conference League. He wanted to see them, and he saw the mistakes that they made on Thursday night. And I reckon he worked on that training field trying to tighten up that defence after some shocking defending on Thursday. And we saw the change because we kept a clean sheet. So we didn't see as much attacking intent. But that's a balance, isn't it? That's the way I took out them 2 games. He just needs to get that balance now. We showed some great attacking play on Thursday night, but we were rubbish defensively. And not as much attacking intent yesterday, although, as he said, it was them final balls, whether they were too heavy or too slow, they just didn't quite come off. We will get there. It's definitely he will definitely get there. And what I really liked, well, you've said it, he's brought in 3 fitness coaches. What were we worst at under Nuno on the stats? Running. What were we best at under Pochettino? He would go and go and go. And if it got to like the last minutes, you said before, was I still expecting a goal, Mr. K? We haven't really felt that. But under Pochettino, I always thought, right, I never got, if it was the 80th minute and it was 1-1 or 0-0, I thought, we can still win this. It was a bit, it weren't just like blind faith. It was, I actually believed we can still go and win this. What was the Swansea game? Was it with the Swansea?
Yeah, I think that was 1-0 to them after 88 minutes or something.
We won 3-1.
We won 3-1, yeah.
Yeah. You know,
it's exactly the same as Ferguson's Man United. Like, people say, they're lucky they get all this extra time. If you're putting pressure on for so long, eventually that pressure tells, because even the best defenders are going to lose concentration and mentally aren't going to be all there if they're under constant pressure. It's exactly what you said, Mark, under Pochettino. It's because of that pressure, and that comes from attacking play. You're never going to get that with 30% with Jose and whatever the hell Nuno decided his tactics were. But Craig's also added he thought it was just Davies Romero being really keen to impress Conte, but Inter centre-backs were doing the same. It's not all the time, but they were getting in the box at points of the game. I think Conte is so meticulous. I got with the idea with Nuno that he didn't really have a plan B, and he was like, half the reason why he sat there with his arms crossed was because it was a deer in the headlights. Whereas Conte is meticulous, and there's always a plan B. There's always a plan C. And I mean, like I said, I didn't notice that, what Craig said. If you have that, that's proper astute noticing that. But if they were doing that, it's because Conte has told them to. It's not because they're trying to go, well, let's see what happens if we do this. And then Adam Conte also said one of the fitness coaches is specifically for Ndombele. I think that's it.
I think he needs 2. And there's one fitness coach for the rest of the team, and he's got 2 for himself. No, but Conte is the type of manager where he wants you to do what he's told you to do. Not do what you think might be right. What he's told you to do. And he will absolutely go berserk when you don't. And the reports have come out from other players, top professionals out there, that turn around when he's had a go at players for doing what they think is right. And he said, look, why didn't you do what I said? And they've gone away, even though they got bruised that he's had a go at them. They've all turned around and said, you know what? He was right. Because they had time to think about it. Now, the only way you could do that is if you become humble, right? So if you've got any characters in that dressing room who think they're bigger than the manager, goodbye, right? Now, you think about it for a second, right? Yeah, we had Jose, right? Who, very big sort of personality. But even towards the end of his tenure, it looked like some of the players thought they were bigger than him. They could snigger. We just kicked the ball around a little bit. He's going to get sacked. Let me go and touch my hat. Yeah. Let me keep passing the ball sideways so that I keep getting completed passes. My stats are good. So eventually, when I get my transfer right, Levy's going to turn around and say, look at all these completed passes and all the rest of it. These minutes that he's paired. Look, he's paired in the final You know, now I can sell him. I can say, yeah, man, he's been in finals. He's played against Barcelona or Real Madrid and scored a goal. This is all the type of malarkey and games that some of the players used to get away with. Under Conte, that's not going to happen because this guy keeps using the word kill.
Well, Adam theorises that some of the players have never heard the word humble. If they haven't, they soon bloody will, I tell you. He is not one, Conte, to... I can't remember who it was on Sky. They were talking about Man United after the City game, and it might have been Carragher, but I can't remember. It was the top teams, the top managers. They mentioned Chelsea, they mentioned Liverpool, they mentioned Man City. If you don't perform and work and do what the manager wants under Tuchel, Klopp, Guardiola, you're out of the team. And Nuno couldn't afford to drop anyone. Yeah. And I don't think he really knew what he was doing. I think so. I quite like Nuno. Whereas Conte has no problem dropping Kane if Kane isn't doing what he wants, and not just dropping him to the bench. He's got no problem telling him to stay at bloody home.
Look, at the end of the day, if Conte turns around to Kane and tells him to stay at home, I 100% back Conte on that. Mm-hmm. Because he knows, this is what we need to trust. We need to rely upon the professionalism and the quality of any individual that's in our club. If I want a property portfolio, then I need to trust Levy. But when it comes to football, I trust Conte. In terms of transfers, I think Paratici is definitely that type of sort of good director of football. He may not be absolutely the very best, but he just got here as well. So we need to give time towards these particular people who have worked in top clubs. Sometimes I think the fan base, right, they like to rubbish people which are top of their game. And I don't understand what qualifies us to be able to do that type and say those type of things. Sometimes, of course, we need a form of entertainment. And obviously, we're going to know whether we're entertained or not. But if this is a journey, sometimes the journey itself is really exciting. For example, when Berbatov, got sold, all of us, we went on a journey that year with Redknapp. Bale was the type of player that came in every time he played for our team, we lost the game. We went on that journey where we went all the way up, and it was so exciting to get to that end, to get into the top four. And I think that the individual blips that we come across are easy to hurdle if we're like I said, we win together and we lose together. As fans, we need to win together with the players. We need to lose together with the players. And I think sometimes our fan base is what they call fickle. They're too tyrannical when they see something slip. And I'm thinking to myself, hold on a second. Some of these people, some of these players, they've been with our club for a very long time. And just like that, they're dead to us. I think that's wrong. And we want loyalty from them when we don't give them loyalty back. And that's what winning together is. That's what playing together. And Conte's even said this. I will not talk about individual people because we are a team. If we start talking about individuals, then we're no longer acting. We're going to let go of the word team. So it's us and we. And I think that's very good. He said it straight. He didn't mince in his words about it. He's not like he's hiding something. He's just turning around and saying that the philosophy of thinking about us as a team, speaking about us as a team, is going to enable us to physically act as if we're part of a team. When our team is losing 2-0 and it's like, the 80th minute, are we going to be throwing shade on the players and telling them they're rubbish? Or are we behind them to lift them up as they were the 12th man to hope that they win it? We have to back them up. If we don't give them that in the stadium, what's the point of having the stadium?
Well, we'll come on to that in a second. Firstly, from Craig, I think that's why he's playing Davies for that reason, the whole Inter Milan comparisons. To push forward on occasion, maybe the same playing Romero on the right instead of in the middle like he did at Atalanta. It's definitely a Conte thing. But, I mean, Mr. K's comment there, Mark, that, we're digging players out. Do you think that comes from a higher expectation? Before Poch, we've been in the Champions League once. He gets us there 4 times in a row, multiple semi-finals, a final, Champions League final. Do you think the expectation has been raised and now, certainly like you said with under Poch, exciting football, never say die attitude, completely died on that sword with Jose and Nuno. So do you think it's a higher expectation now? Because West Ham will have that in however long when they slip because of where they are now. And they had it in the past, didn't they? When Redknapp got them 5th and then they struggled. Man United have had it. Arsenal have had it. So do you think it's we've got a higher expectation now, and that's why we dig players out more, because we've seen what they can be capable of, and they're not reaching those heights?
Yeah, I think partly it's that. I think there is. Look, it's a combination of things, isn't it? We know that we pay the highest ticket prices, so the fans have got the right to moan when they're seeing crap on the pitch. I think, yeah, when you see the downfall of like a player like Dele Alli, who was, you know, he was an 80, 90, 100 million pound player, and you see the decline of him, that can be frustrating because you know it's in there and he's still young enough, and then you wonder what's happened to this guy. And I suppose you see us signing players like Ndombele, who was tearing it up for Lyon, and not coming here and doing the job that we thought he was going to do in replacing Dembele. Another one in the Celso, we paid a lot of money. There's a lot of frustrating things. And then you see we got rid of a manager that we all loved and bringing in Mourinho, a serial winner, but he was on his way. There's so many things that have just been quite depressed since the Champions League final, isn't it? Really, to be honest with you, we've had, for me personally, I've only had two real like high moments, really, and that was when Bale come back. I was absolutely buzzing, and with this Conte thing. To be honest with you, they're the two things.
And Ajax.
No, I mean since the Champions League final.
Sorry. Okay.
Getting to the Champions League final. So essentially Ajax. Essentially, I mean the Ajax, yeah. Since then, there's only been two moments where, and how long ago was Ajax? Like, what was it? 2 years 3 seasons ago or something? You know,
we've had days.
Yeah.
I'll be the type to be saying, well, I remember the war.
Exactly. And but that is genuinely like the two moments, because we saw, like, I wasn't excited about Mourinho. I loved Mourinho when he first. I'll rephrase that. I really liked Mourinho because he come in with this like sort of brazen. Just, you know, I like the arrogance of the man. To be honest, it was different. It reminded me of Clough. Like, it was different. It come in. I'm a winner. And I'm a special one. I hate Chelsea, but I loved all that. But we just got a broken Mourinho. So, and we got rid of Pochettino at the same time. So I was behind him to begin with. I said, well, look, I can understand if you really want to get rid of Pochettino, this is probably the best man to try, and he's not a great fit for Tottenham, but let's hope he can just bring us a trophy. I don't care if he's going to play shit. But it's not exciting. And that's what it is, mate. I think we've just been so low of all these different things. It's been a cycle of crap, to be honest with you.
Well, the whole Mourinho thing was a complete waste of time, wasn't it? You bring the guy in to win a trophy, he gets a chance to win a trophy, and you sack him a week before. So it was a complete and utter waste of time, waste of complete money, and God knows how much money they paid to him in the compensation as well.
I think if you might as well just
Pochettino if you're going to waste your time, aren't they?
If you've got yourself a chairman at the top that doesn't have any that doesn't show loyalty, then you know it's gonna trickle its way down. He's often bypassed. I mean, look, let's not go into a Levy out right? Yeah, because boy, you need about 6-7 hours with me. But on a positive light, we've got an international break. Okay, not all the players will be going out internationally, but we do have quite a few international players. It will give time for Conte to start to work on things. You know, sitting inside the Tottenham training grounds with his staff, and he has a lot of staff. You know, and obviously on top of that, you've also got the youth setup that he can, you know, the staff which are in the youth setup, he can call upon them as well. Okay, because I've seen Ryan Mason spending a lot more time with Conte. I mean, look, generally, I know there was a lot of negativity around Ryan Mason towards the end of last season. Personally, I've always liked the boy, always liked the boy. He wasn't going to set the world on fire as a footballer, but to me, I just like his demeanor. I like his gentleness. I like his kindness. I thought he got a raw deal, being in between to rock and a hard place. And obviously, at the end of the day, after the horrific injuries that he had, for Levy to bring him in to the coaching setup, he's got to be, you know, if that was me, I would have, from my perception, I would have seen Levy's softer side, family side, you know, the fatherly figure side. And I too would speak the way Ryan Mason did. And I think we as fans, we were so upset at the time because of Jose being taken away, the cup final coming. It's almost like we hung our hopes that season, because when it started off, like you said, with Bale coming in, we hung our hopes that season. We have to win something. And that was our last desperate sort of attempt. The hope was fading, but we weren't giving, and that dashed all our hopes. And we took it out on maybe this person or that person, whatever. And I think now with Conte being here, we can stop talking about all this malarkey on the side, and we can start to be a little bit patient and looking for signs of improvement little by little.
Absolutely.
We've definitely got a manager that's going to talk to us, like talk to Kane.
Yeah, I mean, back to your point, Mark. Craig says the team cycle ended on the Champions League final. It's taken a while to get our new cycle started properly. You can understand fans' frustration. It's what Pochettino said, isn't it? The painful rebuild. It's taken, I don't know, 3 years and it's still needed. Do you think, I'm going to have a show on Friday talking about Conte because it's an international break, so I won't go into it a huge amount of detail, but do you think Levy will back him, Mark, in the transfer window when Conte says, I want this player, I want that player, I want this player out, I don't care how much money you get for him, just get him out of my squad? Do you think Levy will back him? Because if he does, it's good. But I'll be furious because he should have done it 3 bloody years ago when the guy who deserved that chance, getting a second and Champions League finals, asked for it. But I suppose there's the old saying, better late than never. But and Conte, if he doesn't get it, is likely to just go, well, fuck you, then I'll walk off. So do you think Levy will do what Conte says? Or do you think Levy will be Levy in January?
It's last chance saloon for Levy for me. I haven't asked you this yet, Chris, because I've not done like a proper pod with you for a while. We've really spoken about Levy. So me and you both, and Mac when we used to do it with him, we were all on the boat of let's give Levy a chance. We could see good things. I got off that boat when the Conte, we didn't get Conte in the summer, and I thought that it was down to Levy, and I cancelled my membership. And I got, I said, I'm not going to the club shop, and I'm fully Levy out now. I was done with him. That was it for me. That was the end of it. Where are you now on the Levy in, Levy out? And now, let me go back. I'm starting. I've said, look, that's very ambitious getting Conte. For me, the next step is now what he does in January. That's what I want. If he does that, if he does what I think he's good, if he does what he's meant to do, and why I think Conte's come in, which is giving the tools to do the job, then I can go back on. I'm okay with Levy again. That's where I'm at.
I'm still Levy out, but for different reasons. Because when we were speaking before, I was always of the case as an owner, you've got to do 2 things. You've got to make the team stable financially, which he's done, but then you've got to do the best for the actual football team, which he hasn't done. But I was always 50-50, but then what set me off is it's fine to piss off Spurs fans, but when you're potentially putting everyone else out of business with the ESL, get out of my club. So, I mean, it's all about money with him. It's all about money. So I'm still... But then be careful what you wish for, because you'll get like a billionaire owner who kill a load of people in different countries or imprison different people, and you sell your soul, don't you? And Newcastle win a couple of league in the next, I don't know, 5 or 10 years. But like Man City, it will then become like, well, it's just a cup. We win these all the time. It won't mean anything. I don't want that with Tottenham.
So I'm a very selfish individual, Chris, and I don't give a crap about that. I just want to win things. To be honest with you. I don't care about
guys, at the end of the day, right, yeah? Look, if we're going to be pedantic about this, right, yeah, then technically speaking, all money has come from blood anyway, okay? If you look at the wealth that we have, why we call Britain great, right? Yeah, it's come from stolen things around the world, and that's one of the reasons why sport, right? Yeah, people want to play against England. But the thing is now is that, as you said, it's not our business where we are in terms of how we are. In terms of, we don't make those decisions. You know, the FA makes those decisions, or FIFA makes those decisions. It's footballing hierarchy at the top. Now we know behind the scenes that you pass the right suitcases of money. But if that's the case, the same thing as our government. What are we going to do there? We're going to come around and not call our government legitimate. So I'm with Mark with this, where I want the best for my club, right? Now, Levy in or Levy out doesn't make a difference. because that's very personal. It's the performance of the job. Is he competent at the job? If right now we've got a director of football who comes out and makes statements and talks to us, that's a good thing, because that helps with the transparency. We now have a manager who's doing the same thing. That helps because it gives us transparency. What I didn't used to like under Levy was all the cloak and dagger stuff, right? Where the coach is coming out and like one eye is looking at you, the other eye is looking sideways towards Levy, what he can and can't say, right? And that I saw that with Poch before he went, where he's trying to tell us, the fans, what's really going on, right? And you know, lo and behold, some months later he gets sacked. So I that's what I didn't like about Levy in terms of the way he operated. And is a leopard going to change his spots? Not really, but it just comes down to finance. So we've got the stadium, we've been there a couple of years. You know, we need to win something. The biggest problem right now for Levy is on sports channels, the punters, the Alan Shearers and people like that, they're talking about him this way, the way we're talking about him. They started to focus on this and saying, you know what, this is Levy's last chance. You know, so now in the media, including America and around the world, his name is being tarnished. And his name is associated to Tottenham Football Club, which is associated to Tavistock, which is associated to Ainik, which is associated to Joe Lewis. So Joe Lewis doesn't care. He just wants to make money. He's like 205 or something years old or something, but he still wants to make money, right? So long as Levy's making money from him, he doesn't care. But having said that, if you tarnish the global brand, then your value might slip down. And that's where people really do care, right? So with me, you know, whether I like Levy or don't like him, so long as he doesn't interfere with the process of how we get on with our club and, you know, who we buy, who we don't buy, you know, I couldn't care less. I just care about the success. That matters more to me. If a player's crap at their job, we want them to go out. If a coach is crap at his job, we want him to go out. If a director of football is crap at his job, we want him to go out. This chairman has clearly proved time and time again he's fucking crap at his job, right? So it's like, why is it okay for him to be wielding the axe on everyone else except himself? So we as fans want a certain accountability. There's a certain reality in the world where someone's got shares in the place, he's too powerful to get rid of. Who's his boss? Ain't going to say nothing. We can't say nothing. We feel powerless, helpless. But with Paratici coming in, with Conte coming in, us fans, we can start to see a light at the end of the tunnel, with or without Kane. Because our team should be able to win without Kane. Say he's injured, whatever. We still should be able. You cannot win a league if you just rely heavily upon one player. You understand? There are times when your rest of the players have to step up and put it in. So this is what I hope we get under Conte. It's not a team built around one player. It's a team. And Conte has said as much. He said exactly the same thing in one of his interviews. He turned around and said, it's not about the one player. It's about the whole team. We don't build a team around one player. Because then if you do, you get ups and downs. And he doesn't like crazy games.
And also, one thing that gives me a bit of hope, Chris, about whether we will spend is if you listen, he said it in more than one interview, Conte, more than one interview, he will talk about the infrastructure of the club. He will talk about the training ground. He will talk about the stadium. He talks about the fans. He doesn't say we've got a fantastic squad of players like Mourinho did when he came. If you go back and listen to what he said, go back and listen. He said it in more than one. He's never, ever mentioned. He says, we've got a fantastic infrastructure here. We've got a fantastic training ground here. We've got one of the best stadiums in the world. We've got fantastic He doesn't mention the players. Doesn't He knows that
Paratici didn't he? But
Conte hasn't. Conte hasn't, and he's said it in about 3 or 4 different interviews. Because I listen, I thought, does he mention? Is he going to mention it this time? And he never does. Right. He never ever mentions the players.
He says every player. He goes, every single player needs to improve.
Yeah, and he will improve them, and he will get rid of, like you've already said, Chris. He will get rid of some of the ones that we think are good. And who will it be? We don't know yet. But I trust the man to. I looked at his subs yesterday, and I was like, what the fuck? What's going on? What is Doherty coming on and at left back? But he done all right when he come on.
Yeah, he didn't do too bad, did he?
Cross. Lo Celso, right, the corner was shit, but he got our best shot on goal. You know, so end on Bele, yes, move on quickly.
In terms of Poch, Craig has said that it was the right time for Poch to leave. He was burnt out. He made two big mistakes selecting Kane instead of Moore in the final, publicly declaring all the players need to go, which is poor. Yeah, I've never thought about that with a rebuild. The Champions League final, we didn't lose that because Kane started instead of Moore, but I do think it was a mistake in the sense that Moore obviously played a blinder in Ajax and then he's dropped. So it kind of sends a subliminal, subtle message to the players that if you're not Kane, you can do what you want, but you still won't play.
Look, every manager out there tells us.
Romano, he's gone on Twitter, isn't he? That Conte was waiting for United, so wasn't interested in the summer. So we got Nuno temporarily, but I mean that goes against what Conte said. But you know that's just a Twitter thing, and he doesn't think Levy is having anything to do with the football side anymore. Let's hope so. I don't see why he brought Paratici in if it wasn't the case. He would have just stuck with Steve Hitchen. But I mean, Paratici and Conte worked together at Juventus, and it wasn't too shabby a partnership. Let's put it that way. So hopefully that's the case. But last two things in the game, Mark. Calvert Lewin didn't play. He's essentially like Kane is to us, or certainly was to us. If Kane doesn't play, we look completely different. I mean, do you think he would have made that much difference? Do you think they would have put more crosses in for a start, and then we'd have had more defence to do? Had more defence to do? That's not even English. Had more defensive responsibilities.
I suppose we'll never know. Really, potentially they would have done. It's hard to say. He probably is there. If you could have any player from Everton, you would have Calvert Lewin. So he obviously is a very important player for them. Richarlison would have gone out wide, wouldn't he? So they would have been. Look, they would have been more threatening with Calvert Lewin because he's a good player. But that's all you can say. Really, we don't know. Do we? We'll never know. We'll never know how it would have been if he would have played. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Oh, one thing, Mr. Cal, I forgot to ask about this is what I was really pleased about is last year when we were under Nuno and Mourinho towards the end, when we were under the Kosh, we were all over the place and inevitably conceded a goal. The penalty appeal kind of changed the game. Everton fans were massively on the up. You could see Everton players were angry and it got them on the up. But we rode that storm out. And then we started having chances, whereas under Nuno, under Jose, never ever happened. And Mark touched on it earlier with under Poch. We rode storms out and then we started attacking. But I was particularly pleased with that we looked a lot more solid and a lot more able to combat.
I think our normal squad, right? Yeah, when those type of situations would have occurred, because literally a few minutes later there was another kickoff. Right, there was a headbutt, right? I think it was Romero and
he's got to be careful, Romero. He went over the top.
No, that was Richarlison deliberately. No, that was Richarlison deliberately. Richarlison was the actual one that actually went forward to headbutt him.
Yeah, he doesn't need Romero, to be though. I think he needs to be a bit more savvy. I think.
Yeah, that's absolutely getting red card in the previous game. Come on, that's just wrong. That was a rugby tackle. But what I'm saying is everybody knows this. In the Premier League, they already studied the opponents. They've already told their players, listen, rile him up, do something, get in his face, so and so. Let's get him a yellow card. He'll have to watch himself. And then it'll be easy for him to get sent off in the second half, 65 minutes. If we can ride out 35 minutes with them down to 10 men, we might stand a chance of winning. Jose used to tell us that don't be nice boys. And Lamela used to go out there and say, okay, fine, no problem. I'll get next man sent off. You know, there was a shadow that went across his face. Oh no, I've been injured. These are the type of tricks. These are the type of tricks that we're going to expect to be played against our team. But what I saw in this game was that the professional attitude of our players, that they got on with it. They did not stop the game and start getting riled up with the opposition. Instead, they got on with the actual playing of the game. And I thought that was really, really, that was quite mature and refreshing as well. Because normally we would have, that's how they get underneath our skin. They create that type of distraction of the mind, which prevents your body from doing what you've been trained to do. And then that would have ended up with Dyer just watching the game or something like that. That's what normally happens. And then sneaking a goal. I've seen West Ham do that to us plenty of times. Right? So I'm kind of happy that with Conte being there, that the players have started to realize that they need to just listen to what he said and do exactly what he wants them to do, which is carry on playing. If he tells them to wind the opposition up and go for a fight and go for a scrap, then do it. Because say, for example, you're going up against a top team. Yeah, fine. You be the ones to create the mess. But in terms of when teams are doing it to you, it was beautiful to see the fact we would have lost this game. Honestly, games like this, we would have fallen off. They would have beaten us maybe 2-1 or something.
Further and further, and we'd have been camped on Loris's goal line.
Yeah, that's psychological. But they didn't do that. They went forward.
Yeah, that's what I was really pleased about.
So there are some positives in all this. It's been 2 games. The guys only had like 2 or 3 days of training with the players. There's an international break.
He's not been there a week yet.
No, yeah, exactly. It's only been it's been 2 days and 2 days. So he's had like 1 day proper training with the whole team and 1 day proper training with the whole team. And a second day on each side, which he's had training with peripheral players. Now, the interesting thing is when we thought that he's got 2 days of training and the first day is going to be with the players that didn't play, we thought, okay, then he's going to rotate the squad. But he didn't do that much in any way. And I thought to myself, that's quite refreshing. Because he wants a consistency. He's told everybody, I want this team not to have crazy games. I want them to be stable. He didn't use the word consistency. He said stable. Right? And with Conte, I believe that he's very selective over the words he uses. When he first came in and he's talking about our club, he used the word protagonist. Come on, Geezer, that's a complicated word for someone to use when the English is not your native tongue, right? So he's very clever in the way he does it. He's very mature in that. He understands how to deal with top brass management, right? And will Levy back him? Okay, now there's reports coming out that basically Conte isn't the type of manager that actually buys really expensive players. What people are forgetting, it's called, I sell a player for 50 million, I buy one for 60 million, I've spent 10 million. The problem we've got in our club is that those players are not worth as much as they used to be. And Levy's the type of player that will get 60 million, make it the first year into a loan, and spread the others out over like 50 years or something.
Yeah, but like Mark says, it's his last chance. I think if he gets this wrong, a lot of the fan base will really turn on him. And yeah, last point. You were there, so you might have noticed this as well, or you might have a better thing. We've obviously talked about Kane, but Son was getting booed quite a lot by Everton fans, obviously because of the Andre Gomez thing. But anyone who saw that, and anyone who you don't have to be a Spurs fan, he started crying after that, thinking, "Oh my God, I've broken his leg." So there was no intent there. It was just a terrible mistimed challenge. But do you think that the boos affected him because he didn't look like his normal self at all?
I do think the boos I honestly do think the boos affected him. I really do. Yeah, he was not himself, and as he was like coming off the pitch, he was the last one off the pitch, and obviously the Spurs fans were cheering him. His head was down because he was still getting abuse from the Everton fans as he was coming off. He definitely wasn't himself, and I do think he's the type of player that would be affected by that kind of thing. I think he is quite an emotional type of guy. I mean, who the fuck would sign a new contract at Tottenham when you can go anywhere in the fucking world and play at the minute? You know, he could go to any club and be a starter for me. He's that good, and he signed a new bloody contract. So he doesn't do just things. You know, he's quite emotional. He loves Tottenham, I think, and he loves the fans, and that's why he stayed. Anyone else would have said, "Oh, fuck this, I'm off," like Kane wanted to do. You know, so. Yeah, I do think that it affected him. I do think that because, as you said, he didn't mean to go in like that from Gomez. It was an accident. We would probably do the same if someone did it to one of our players, whether they meant to do it or not. I don't blame Everton fans for reacting like that.
Plenty of our players been taken apart.
Yeah, and we would do the same. We would boo, we would boo the player as well. So I don't blame the Everton fans, but yeah, I do think it got to him.
I mean, what do you think, Mr. K? Because with Son, I think Conte will get the best out of him again. Because what I couldn't understand with Nuno is at the very least with Jose, we were defensive, but it was defensive with a view of Kane and Son are our goal getters. Let's get them in the game and get them affecting the game. Whereas Nuno was like, what? I've got Son and Kane hit. Where are they? So Conte will work with, they're our goal getters, get them in the game. Let's defensively shore ourselves up, which I think is probably his first port of call, and looking at the game yesterday is probably what has been worked on, certainly after the Vitesse game that Mark mentioned. But he'll get the best out of Son and Kane. I still think he needs a playmaker to do that. Jose got that done without a playmaker. But
look,
what did you think of him yesterday?
I think you can take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So with Conte, like he will put the system together. He'll get all of the bits and pieces together. But then it's down to the individual players where they are at this particular stage of their mental stability or life or development. Okay, so with Kane, he's sulking. It's blatant to see. With Son, he's lost the best partner he had, right? And now he represents the golden boy in our team.
Do you think Kane is sulking, or do you think it's just the lack of attacking play? Because that Arsenal game.
When I say sulking, sorry, I'm being a bit flippant when I say the word sulking. I watched the game a little bit more than that. I know exactly why he drops his performances, why the shoulders are dropping, because I can see from my perspective that the players are not really treating him the way that they used to treat him before. Right? I can see that. Like you talked about Lo Celso was like the Celso shot was the best one. Kane was clear on through the middle. They didn't pass him the ball. Right? He's our main striking. He's our main striker. Give him the ball. The guy who's done a run, and you don't pass the ball. Why not? Instead, you give it to Lo Celso, who goes sideways through there and has to shoot something from 30 yards, and that's our best. So as far as I'm very angry about it, as you can see, right? But the reason why is because I can see these little snides. I can see these little slidey things. Like when when he passed he dropped from the top. He came to the number 10 position. He passed the ball to get the ball. Then he passed it to Davis. And the very first thing Davis did was smack the ball straight back at him without even waiting for Kane to move forward.
But like we've been saying, though, if Conte sees that, if Conte sees that, he will be saying, I don't give a shit if you don't like him. Give him the bloody ball. So that will come. Son, right, and if you don't, you're out of the team.
With Son, I think basically look, Son wears his emotions on his sleeve. Right? And that's what we love about Sonny. Right? Because he gives 110% all the time. But when he's emotionally down, it's very difficult to pick him up. Because there has to be somebody on the pitch that needs to pick him up. Before, he had Kane and Dele to pick him up. Right? So now he's by himself, and that means he has to rely upon himself. Does Sonny have the internal leadership strengths? The answer is no, he doesn't. He's never had that. But we've thrust that upon him. The limelight has thrust that upon him. And for a moment, while he could stand there and be very, very bright. But that's expecting too much for too many different qualities, right? And he doesn't have all of those. He does not meant to. We need him to play the best. Instead of him playing as a striker or a shadow striker, his best position is out there as an inside forward on the left. That's his very, very best position. Why play him anywhere else? And that's what happened previously.
I do think
that was a bit of a joke.
I do think with that, and then Mark will know exactly where people will be going mad at me for saying this. Without a playmaker, Eriksen was unbelievable for someone like Son. He got the ball within about 2 seconds of him getting the ball. He pings it to Son 50 yards, one-on-one with the defender, skins him. We're in business. Bang. With Harry Winks, I like Harry Winks, but he needs to leave for his own sake as well as ours. But when you've got Harry Winks there, you're not getting the ball that quickly, and it's going to be very side to side and very slow. And then when you do get the ball, there's two people around you because, like you say, Mr. K, all these teams do their homework. They know that Son is one of our key danger men. So, yeah, I mean, Craig has said in the summer there's so many decent players on free. And
Ramos, Sergio Ramos.
Yeah, who was that? It was on Tommy's stream, I think. I think it was
Kessie's going to become available, right? And
it was Josh, the Tottenham guy, who said it. That there's a possibility that they're going to cancel his contract. He's on 125 grand a week at PSG, which is affordable. And even if he can't play or he's not that great, what an influence in the dressing room for someone like a Romero to learn, Tanganga to learn of. But yeah, I mean,
why are they getting rid of him, Chris?
Sorry.
Why would PSG get rid of him?
I can't remember now. I think it's because he's always injured or something like that. But
well, why do we want him?
Oh, the influence
because he's better than what we've got.
I mean, if he ain't playing, what's the point?
But he would be like that general Conte.
Well, Chris, don't get me wrong, mate. I'd love him if he was on the field, but if they're getting rid of him because he's never plays because he's injured, what do we want him for?
Yeah. Don't quote me on that. I think that's what Josh said. But Craig's listed here: Brozovic, Dybala, Belotti, Insigne, Kessie, Rudiger, Christensen. Kessie, I think we'll get in January because these players, if they're on a free, like Dybala, for example, if he's on a free, it's not just going to be us that's going for him. There's going to be a queue for him. So with Kessie, who's going to be in demand as well, get him for 10 million now. It's 10 million, yeah. You could have got him 10 million free, but you then get him now. And there is get him on a pre-contract or whatever they call it.
Levy will be a 6 month loan.
I think Kessie, and he's a central midfielder who can play a pass. I think he'll come in January. But yeah, Dybala, I can't see that. I think he'll go somewhere in the Champions League, and there'll be a queue for him. And Rudiger, I'm not sure.
Brozovic.
Insigne will be good, but again, is he going to want to play second fiddle to Kane, or do we get rid of Kane in January? But yeah, like I said, my hair's got more chance of growing back than us not signing anyone in January. I'm adamant about that because, like you said, Mark, he's never said the squad is fantastic, or so that says we need players. And yeah, if that means players go out, then that's so be it. But yeah, I just hope Spurs fans are preparing themselves for some of your favourites will get chucked out and chewed.
I don't care, mate. I don't care who got. I don't care. There's not one.
I know you don't, but there'll be a lot of people out there going, "Oh, he's my favourite. He's a great player. This guy's won trophies everywhere. He knows what he's doing."
Exactly that. Exactly. I back this guy to him and Paratici to do it together. Work on the football side. Build the team they want to build, be patient, and this guy will get it right. It's as simple as that. If you want to try and win things and get back in the top four, give this guy the keys to the fucking door and let him get on with it. And all us that think we know about everything, we don't know as much as these two, not by a lot. None of us do. Yeah. So just let them. We can have opinions, and we're going to share our opinions, but we don't know as much as these professionals that have been there and done it, worn the T-shirt. Let them get on with it.
100%.
Yeah. We've pretty much reached the end. There's not really much else.
You meant to end it. I think you meant to end it with "Come on, you Spurs."
I will do. I'm going to give you a chance to plug your channels. Equal opportunity podcast to me. Mr. K, pleasure to have you back. And not just me saying that. The whole Spurs community will be, YouTube community will be saying that. I'm sure about that. Craig's just got in touch here saying they were just examples. We don't have to spend a fortune, but
Craig is right.
I get what you're saying,
I mean, what Craig is basically saying is that come this particular January transfer window, we might do the opposite of what Hitchen doesn't like to do. Actually, bring some players in that can make a change to the rest of the season, that can at least give us a bit of depth of squad and a bit of options.
Yeah,
and we need to
certainly go for something next year. The top four is achievable. It'll be a real tough shout, but it's achievable. Next season,
not too far away from us right now.
Conte gets the squad in that Conte wants, and then go for the top four next season, I think. But we pretty much reached the end. Like I say, Mr. K, absolute pleasure having you back on. Talk to K is your stream. It's on Will Stewart's THFC Rants. Where can people find that?
Basically, Talk to K is my show, which I do on Will Stewart's THFC Rants channel. I've got a show every Tuesday night, 11 o'clock GMT. And that goes on for about a couple of hours. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been back on, but I'm honestly, the amount of messages that I'm getting from everyone, it really does make me feel kind of really glad inside that this community, as much as we might have difference of opinion with one another, and sometimes we really argue with each other. You might have seen it a few times, maybe on the streams with like me and Bob and me.
Yeah,
other people,
I've seen you, and I think Bob, it was getting a bit heated, but it was entertaining.
That's become a thing now. Apparently, that's become a thing on that particular channel, that particular day. I think I only did it because it was a passion for Kane. But I think sometimes as players, as fans, we have a slight sentimentality towards a particular player, and we're not looking at it from stepping back sort of position. And some of our fan base it's easier for them to step back. So it depends on us. But yeah, listen, I'm on shows like, for example, Paxton Road TV. I do represent them as well. FTB channel as well. So pretty much everywhere I can go to where people like to hear my opinion about things. Like
Excellent.
So, but I'm absolutely happy to come onto your show. You've invited me a few times. In fact, you've interviewed me. The very first time I got interviewed in a podcast was by you. And trust me, when I look back at all the videos I did, or rather the places I've been to, your interviewing techniques on those type of one-to-one podcasts that you've done are absolutely second to none. I look at it and I think, wow, is that me speaking? Like I was coming out with stuff which I don't normally do on a panel. So big you up to if you're watching out there, like and subscribe this channel. Okay, don't just hang around. Do it. Pass it on to your friends. Share it on to your friends. And if you're watching this sometime in the future, put a comment below. It helps the YouTube algorithm promote Chris's channel.
Yeah, but very kind of you. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. But as you know, the podcast or stream is only as good as the guests, so that's why. Yeah. But yeah, Craig Bold has just said quickly. This can be Conte's pre-season, and then big up to the panel. Cheers, Craig. Thanks so much for getting in touch and joining in. Mark, I know you don't particularly like advertising your pod, but have a go.
I'll give it a go.
Podcast. Where can people find it? Other than the description that I've put the link in for. But,
so basically, before the game, we haven't done one for the last two games. That's another reason I don't want to promote it too much. We've done one for Conte. We didn't do one for the Man United game because we was running the bar at Le Royale before the Man United game, and then obviously I went to the Everton game, so we didn't get a chance to do one. The Wi-Fi there is terrible in Goodison. So we do, when the lineups are announced, we talk about, you've been on there, Chris, you helped me with it the other week. We talk about the lineups, we talk at halftime, and we talk about the game just as it's finished. That's why it's called Raw Emotion, because there's been a lot of swearing and a lot of emotion, basically. You've seen how we played over the last 2 years,
Sounds like my type of show. I love it.
So it's just about passion, really, and it's just thrown together. So it's not your most polished podcast. It's just it's not even a long one usually. I think when Chris come on, we got done about 50 minutes because Chris ain't used to talking because he asked us the question on this one and we do all the talking. So when he was on, it was like, right, I'm going to go.
My experience was 2/3 good because I did the bloody West Ham game, so I had to talk about the West Ham loss afterwards.
Exactly.
Before the game half time where it was 0-0, it was quite good. But I like the format of it. You get the opinions of before the game, halfway through, and. I mean, talk about half-time just quickly. I did the stadium tour the other day. You get this multimedia device, and Kane's talking about. You go in, you get interviews for each part, and in the change room, Kane's on there, and he goes, before the game, it's all talking about tactics and what we're going to do. Half-time, it's pretty much talking about the first half. Cheers for that. I thought we were talking about full-time, what you're having for dinner. But, sorry, I've cut you off there, Mark.
That's all right. No, that's fine. Yeah, so that's basically it. Follow. I don't run the Twitter handle there, but Gareth does at Emotion Pod. Follow us there. There's a link to the podcast and all that kind of stuff. And thanks for having me on, Chris. Chris's podcast is fantastic. I've done that a number of times. He's a great guy. Please, like, subscribe. Listen to his podcast. Thank you again, mate.
Oh, no problem. Pleasure to have you on. And Mr. K, welcome back. And a positive podcast would change. I haven't done too many this season of a positive one, but we have got a great manager in now. So hopefully we can get a few more. Hit the likes, hit the subscribes, and when you've done that, go straight over to Talk to Kay. Do the same there. Go straight over to Raw Emotion. Go and subscribe there as well. International break, so I've got to try and think of what I'm going to do on Friday, but it'll be about Conte. I didn't do one when he was announced, so it'll be that, and then we'll be back to our normal routine. So until then, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Go Spurs.
Thank you so much for watching, for everybody who participated in the live chat and added comments. Before you go, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Anybody who couldn't watch the live video, you can still catch us on YouTube. Add any comments, suggestions or questions to the comments section on the video. Anybody who's listened to the audio-only podcast, thank you so much for listening. Anybody who wants the audio-only podcast, you get this wherever you get your podcast from. Alternatively, if you go to Twitter, @Talk Tottenham, you'll find all the information there. We'll be back soon. We're live Mondays, 8 p.m, Fridays, 12:30 UK time. Until then, come on, you Spurs!